Stop.
Yo, I'm Bob. Into Marvel. Happen to be totally blind since birth. Talking about Spider-Man, the animated series, Season 2, Episode 10, Neogenic Nightmare, Chapter 10, The Immortal Vampire. Part 2 of 2, I guess you could call it. This is episode 23 of Spider-Man overall, and it premiered on February 10th in 1996. Spoilers ahead, so if you haven't watched the episode yet, I would advise you to sink your teeth into that episode before sinking your teeth into this video. Or maybe draining the plasma from this particular video. I don't know. I don't know what the censors will let you get away with. It is your afterlife, so you do what feels right to you. Now, that being said, jumping right in, and you were warned. So, late January, early February in 1996, man, we got so many new episodes of X-Men, Spider-Man. We were, right in the middle of the big Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers 10-part miniseries leading up to Power Rangers Zeo later in the year. And it was like, I couldn't buy enough blank tapes because I was trying to collect everything. I just got in the VCR with a timer on it like a couple of months before, so I was really getting into the whole Saturday morning being free comic book day, and taping Spider-Man and X-Men stuff like that. And this one, I love how we have Spider-Man and Blade just teaming up right away. And I like how Spider-Man is pointing out that it's taking them longer to find Morbius because one of the pieces of Blade's technology is very ancient, a compass. And they're having a bit of a difficult time tracking him. But they do eventually come across him. See, Spider-Man was pulling a little sneaky, and he took a chip from the Neogenic Recombinator. And so Morbius, he's got to go to the only place in the city that'll make those chips. So we get another brief little fight scene at the chip factory, which sounds like they should be producing chocolate chip cookies. I'm craving cookies because it's December as I'm filming this. I really shouldn't be thinking about that. I mean, Morbius would probably want blood cookies. So they have a little brief fight scene at the beginning of the episode. I like, once again, how we see Morbius, his purpose is kind of becoming clear to him, at least what he believes his purpose to be. He doesn't want to be alone as a vampire, so he's out to make more of them. And you've got Terry Lee showing up. And this really makes things interesting for her because she still thinks Spider-Man is responsible for the plasma draining disease afflicting New Yorkers, but she finds Morbius there, and he's dropping people off of high places right and left in this two-parter. I think he drops her. I don't know why he's telling Blade and Spider-Man, "I would not try anything, gentlemen," and then he drops her anyway. I don't know if he loses his grip. I doubt it. I think he probably drops her, and she screams, and we go to commercial, and Blade grabs her. And I like how Terry is not in the least shaken up by this. Like right after Morbius gets away, I mean, I guess he drops her so he can escape with what he needs. And then, Spider-Man heads off too. Terry is wanting to question Blade, and he's like, I'm trying to save people's lives. You have a really weird way of saying thank you. It's just Terry Lee being Terry Lee. She's very suspicious of Blade, Spider-Man. And now she's found out that Morbius exists. She's found out that there are vampires, but I really like her character because she's not your typical 80s 90s lady in these shows. She's like Rogue. She's like Jubilee. She kind of takes it all in stride, and she still wants to get to the bottom of what's going on. And I like how you have someone else who Blade he's wanting to let her in on what he's been up to. But as he says later on in the episode, he's lost the ability to feel. I guess because he never really had a mother. Who knows what else has happened to him over the years? You know, it's just been him and Whistler. I get the sense that Blade doesn't want to let anybody in. He doesn't want to get close to anybody. We don't really know who he's lost in terms of this incarnation of Spider-Man. Probably a few. I don't know if Blade has ever really gotten close to anybody. We do find out later on in the episode that he doesn't really want to care about any civilians because he feels like, well, when you're in a war with vampires, people are gonna be unalived, and it's really interesting that they went this particular way with Blade. I'm glad they didn't make him your typical, 90s hero. He's calloused. He's been through a lot, and he doesn't really want to care about civilians. He's just out to destroy every vampire that he can in order to fill that void that was left inside of him. He doesn't care what happens to civilians. He just wants to hunt. He just wants to take out vampires, and I really loved that about Blade in the animated series.
Pause video. Stop. Pause space.
Okay, so the scene where Peter, he's heading back home to make more garlic webbing, which sounds like something that they should, well, maybe something they shouldn't serve at Olive Garden. I wouldn't want to eat that. But yeah, he heads back home to make more garlic-infused webbing. And he sees Morbius kind of creeping around his house. That is a very disturbing scene. Because, of course, Morbius still thinks that Pete created the mutated blood sample. He feels like he thinks it's synthetic, so he's looking for blood in Peter's pad. And boy, that really creeped me out as a kid. I was like, home invasion. This is rather disturbing. And then he heads out because he can't find anything. Morbius is flying the coop, literally flying away or hovering away. And then you've got these scenes where Peter is using his true identity to further his cause as Spider-Man. I love scenes like this. He has to go to Jameson and borrow his truck, his big backfiring truck. I think it's a truck. It sounds like an old rickety backfiring truck, so he'll be less conspicuous as Peter Parker. He decides to head to Blades as Pete, and it's a really tense scene because JJ is very close to firing Pete after disappearing for several days. Dealing with the whole mutation thing. He's got to talk his way out of it. So it's like, yeah, I'm about to get you the picture of the century. I'm about to get you the, a really great photo of Spider-Man. And JJ, being JJ, gives him an ultimatum. It's like, yeah, you got 24 hours. And, if you don't give me what I ask for, you're not going to snap another picture in this town again. It's one of my favorite scenes. And I like how JJ still gives Peter his truck, lets him borrow his truck. I think it's a truck. No audio description in these older cartoons. I mean, I think JJ really does, as close as he can like somebody. I think he does like Peter. He likes his work, but he's kind of had it up to here with Peter, and he really wants that photo. So it was one of my favorite scenes. To seeing Peter out of the suit in this show always fascinated me. Because you really got to look inside of, the day life of Spider-Man as Peter Parker. And he's using this, in this instance, he's using the Peter persona to further his cause as Spider-Man. The scene where, he's heading back to his place, and Morbius is there too, because he's back looking for more of the mutated blood sample. I don't know, he just circles back around to look. It was a pretty sad scene because you've got Mary Jane showing up there. Morbius is getting closer, and she basically lays it out for Peter. She's like, "Well, just tell me you want Felicia, and I'm gone." And Pete senses Morbius getting closer, and he in order to get Mary Jane out of there, in order to keep her safe, he's like, "Yeah, I do want Felicia. I'm sorry." And she's like, "Yeah, well, shows you what I know. I thought we had something good going. Catch you around, see you around." And this is one of those instances in which I was like, why don't you just tell her, man? Just tell her. But I mean, then we wouldn't have all this on again, off again, Ross and Rachel stuff with Peter and Mary Jane. You got to have that in there. You got to have romantic tension. Will they? Won't they? This goes on for so long. It was a pretty sad scene. But Peter is trying to keep her safe the only way he knows how. He doesn't want to put her life in any more jeopardy than it already is. He feels like he could mutate into the man spider at any time if they don't get the recombinator back from Morbius. And I see why he's doing it, but at the same time, I'm like, man, just come on. Just tell her. I mean, we would still have Spider-Man, the animated series, if he told her. I get why he didn't. But it's like, man, come on, dude. You deserve to be happy, right? But he's worried about keeping her happy. So, I mean, you can't go wrong there. He's just trying to be as selfless as he can, which I get. And I mean, I probably would have done the same thing. I don't really care to think about people I love getting hurt and all that stuff either. I don't know what I would have done if I were in that situation. So you've got Morbius showing up. Peter's got to play dumb. Oh, who are you? I don't know who the heck you are. And he finds out, that it's Morbius. And then Aunt May comes out there. They try to ambush Morbius, and he flies off with Aunt May. And Peter's screaming no as we go to commercial break. There were a lot of dramatic screams of no in 90s cartoons. I feel like it happened some in Power Rangers. It happened a bit in X-Men. You'd have Wolverine screaming no occasionally when you cut to commercial. Or, Cyclops would do it at the end of an X-Men episode with a cliffhanger. You couldn't have a commercial break or a cliffhanger ending in the 90s without somebody dramatically screaming, no! This is long before Darth Vader did it. I don't know why people were so up in arms with Vader doing it in 2005. Heck, 90s and 80s kids, we had to listen to that like every Saturday or every weekday. Big freaking whoop.
Stop taking pause space.
Oof. That scene with Morbius just kind of flying away with Aunt May saying, yeah, you're not getting her back. She's insurance until I get my blood sample that I need to make more vampires. And then you got Spider-Man really going off the handle, and he's blaming everybody for, May being taken. And you rarely see Peter, Spider-Man as we should call him, since he's wearing the costume. I just call him Pete anyway. You rarely see him lose his temper. This is his aunt. This is the only family member he has left, and I get it. And he decides to work alone. He's had enough of Blade and his his edginess, I guess. So, and then at the same time, you have him attempting to open up to Terry Lee here, as he tells her the ability to feel seeped out of his soul years ago. Now, he was a baby when he lost his mother, so I'm wondering what else happened in the meantime. I don't really know the character very well because there's not a lot of info about Blade outside the comics. I really do need to go back and catch the first Blade movie, maybe the first two. I could probably read about him online, which I will. It's just so much to drink in, no pun intended, in terms of all the Marvel characters, years worth of information that I've still yet to go over. But he's a fascinating character, and I like how Terry is here to kind of get him to reveal a bit more about himself, maybe to get him to thaw a little bit. And even she says that he has ice water running through his veins. So you got Morbius heading to Felicia because he really wants her to become a vampire too. He's lonely, so he's doing that. And then as Peter is headed to Felicia as well, ooh, he just happens to spy Harry and Mary Jane together. This reminds me of what Mary Jane would do in Spider-Man 2. You know, she's had enough of Peter being all secretive. And, you know, right after she gets understandably ticked at him because he's keeping everything from her, she just heads right on to I forget who it was. Was it John Jameson in Spider-Man 2? I think it was. Maybe she was also dating Harry in that movie. I think it was John though. But here, you know, she lets Harry take her out, and of course, you know, she's highly PO'd at Peter, and you know, we find out way later that she doesn't feel the same way about Harry. I kind of feel bad for Harry here, man. He is the rebound guy, and it gets really serious between these two. But yeah, you know, Harry is over the moon because he's apparently liked MJ for a while now, and this has made his year, I think. And so yeah, Spider-Man happens to see this, and ouch, big time ouch.
Stop. Pause. Space.
I guess while Spider-Man was watching Harry and Mary Jane, Morbius showed up and made off with Felicia. She saw him, she screamed, she fainted, and he was supposed to be watching over Felicia, and he got distracted. At least that's what I think happened, because you know, as all the Harry and Mary Jane stuff was going on, here he comes and yoinks Felicia right up, and you know, heads to the Recombinator with her. So it's like, man, you gotta stop being distracted by your love life there, Pete. This is what happens. This is what happens when you you know, when you're thinking about your love life, man. It's kind of works out for you this way, doesn't it, buddy? I mean, you know, you have him headed to the Recombinator. It's my favorite part of the episode when you've got the fight scene there, and he's just about to make Felicia into a vampire when Felicia gets him to see reason. She basically says something like, well, the man I love, the man I care for, wanted to stop a plague, and you've become a plague. This is not who you are. I don't want to be a vampire. I don't want to be with you like this. You need to remember why I fell in love with you in the first place. And Morbius, you know, he realizes that she was right. I don't know what happened in order to make the Recombinator go wacko, but it was one of the coolest scenes from season 2. And I immediately wanted the action figure. And I didn't know we were getting an action figure until that following summer. They called it Morbius Unbound. And it was such a cool design. I don't think I found him until, like, it had to have been the summer of 1997. Yeah, Morbius is... I think he gets in the way of the Recombinator because Felicia's about to get hit by it, and he gets very, well, he goes batty. He's got these big wings coming off of his arms after he's further, you know, mutated. It completely rewrites his DNA with bat DNA, so he's bigger. He's got this tail. I'm thinking of the action figure. That's how I'm able to remember what it looked like. He's got these giant, like, bat ears that almost look like wings themselves, but they're just massive bat ears coming up off of his head. I think his hair is longer. You could push a button on his back and this blood would pump through his chest. So he kind of reminds me of Mosquitor from Masters of the Universe Origins. He had these big talons on his hands. His pants were all ripped up where his feet were even more mutated. I think he had these big talons on his feet too. He definitely had these massive taloned hands, and you could actually feel the openings in his hands, which he would use to drain plasma when he was, you know, Morbius Unbound. He was a really cool action figure, and so yeah, he just, you know, flies off after a bit. Peter saves the day. They all, you know, get everybody out of there. Morbius just flies away, and Felicia is mourning the loss of Morbius. And I remember thinking, okay, does this guy have a mind? Is he able to speak? Of course, at the end of the episode, after you have Spider-Man and Blade going their separate ways, you have Morbius saying how tired he is. I remember watching it for the first time thinking, okay, maybe he's not able to speak and he's just thinking this in his head. But we find out later when he comes back in the Partners in Danger season that, yeah, he's still able to speak. He's still got his mind. He just looks more bestial now. With the whole bat look he's got going on, which is such a cool look for him. I know he looked pretty cool with the cape and all that, but I love the bat look for Morbius. I remember Stephen King writing a short story called Popsy, and as well as the Night Flyer, and the vampires the same vampire in these two short stories was more bat-like. I think he had big wings, he had big talons, he didn't look like your typical vampire hunk. He was just like a really bestial bat-like vampire, and these are the kind of vampires I've always thought, wow, these guys kick so much butt. And I was glad that Morbius looked like this for a time. I thought that was such a kick butt look for him when I got the action figure like 1.5 to 2 years after the episode aired. Yeah, you've got the Neogenic Recombinator back at ESU. I was worried about that too. I was like, oh boy, are we going to get a Man Spider versus Bat Morbius fight? Which we didn't. Now, I confess I kind of wanted that when I was 12 and watching this for the first time, but we didn't get that. You have Aunt May coming back home. Everything's fine. Blade decides to, head off. He doesn't really pursue a relationship with Terry Lee. Doesn't want her getting hurt and all that. But I liked the episode pretty well. It was a fun two-parter. The ending just really came out of nowhere. I was not expecting Morbius to go through a secondary mutation, and that was my favorite scene from the entire two-parter. I think just reading about the more bestial types of vampires in Stephen King's Nightmares and Dreamscapes before this episode had aired, I envisioned something like this, probably a bit more beastly than Morbius actually looked, but such a cool design for him. I need to look up that action figure on eBay and see if I can't get him, the two versions of Morbius from the animated series. The thing about the Toy Biz action figures is they're not too hard to find, and I want to say some of them aren't that expensive at all. When it comes to Marvel Legends or Toy Biz, I think I honestly prefer the Toy Biz line for X-Men and Spider-Man because those are what I grew up with. Marvel Legends, they're a bit taller, but I don't know. I grew up with the Toy Biz action figures, so if I were to reacquire those, I would probably do more Toy Biz because they just looked so cool. This video has just been uber long, and I'm sorry about that, but I really liked part 2 a lot. And next time, we're going to be talking about part 1 of the Tablet of Time two-parters. So, I will see you next time. Sorry to be talking about time so much, but we'll be talking about it next time. How many times can I say time at the end of the video? Anyway, until the next video, I was going to say next time. I just said next time. Never mind.
Stop taking.
Till then, true believers.